7 people are dead, 12 others injured after a vehicle drove into a group of migrants at a Catholic Charities facility earlier today. I want to head to Guad Venegas, who's standing by for us and has been following developments on this story. Guad, bring us up to date this hour on what you're hearing. It seems like we're having...
Yasmin, we had some trouble with connectivity here. Great. So the latest report from Brownsville indicates, as you mentioned, that 7 individuals died in that accident. Now, a senior law enforcement official told NBC News that a vehicle rammed into these individuals outside a Catholic Charities center. Now, the local fire department there is also reporting that 11 individuals now were transported to hospitals. Now, we also know from speaking to local police that they are looking into this incident to see if it was intentional or not. That's the information that is now developing. There are some videos that NBC is looking to confirm that have been shared by Mexican news outlets just south of the border that show what happened there. Again, these are videos that we are working.
Okay. All right. So as you heard Nick Lachey from 98 Degrees tell us, they're looking into the matter. They're somewhat familiar with it, but they're looking into it. Now, you don't have to look too far to understand what's going on here. We have an incredible amount of mass migrants from all over the world who are on their way to Disneyland in a neighborhood near you. That's what he's going to find out, but he's not going to be allowed to say it. And we saw this too. This is what you call the preemptive false flag. And we saw this in 2021 when the Miracle Jab rollouts were happening. And before the second ones, I believe, between the first and the second, if you recall, this is what they did back then. They're doing it again because they know that the popularity for the migration coming into here is at a record low. They can't even get Democrats who normally just toe the line to go along with this because they're feeling the heat too. Just because Texas is the target, who's not going to go along with the federal law, because what federal government and what president? They're not going to go along with the program and allow the sweet migration to come in. They're going to take matters into their own hands in Texas, which could be the takeoff and the start of the 25th Amendment being used by Texas to become their own sovereign country. You might be seeing that. Okay, so as that's happening now, there is a shooting in concert with what we just saw there that just took place in Texas. Let's see the explanation on this, because it always happens on the weekend. So now they can have a narrative to run with in a slow news week.
Tonight, another American community is grappling with the aftermath of another mass shooting. This time at the mall outside Dallas, Texas. A gunman identified as 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia killed 8 people and wounded 7 others before a police officer killed him.
Of another shooting.
Are in critical condition. None of the victims has been publicly identified yet. The oldest is said to be 61 years old. The youngest, just 5 years old. Shoppers scurried for safety as the gunman opened fire during a busy shopping day in the middle of Texas's high school prom and graduation season.
Out of nowhere, heard about like 10 pops go off, and we see the guy. There's this guy dressed in all black, wearing a vest, has an assault rifle, and he's just shooting at people.
Witnesses said they heard dozens of rounds fired.
When I get out of the store, the ghost city, like I don't see nobody. I keep walking, everybody, like all doors were locked.
A police officer was at the mall for an unrelated incident. He heard the gunfire and rushed to the scene where he shot and killed the gunman. Then, in an all too familiar picture, bystanders, their hands up, were led away as police secured the area store by store. According to the gun safety group Everytown, more people have been killed in mass shootings in Texas.
Okay, so we know the fix is in on another shooting, something we're so familiar with in Texas. You know what? We should just accuse him of being the shooter. How about that guy? You know, don't you just love all the accusations of another shooting by an AR-15 that just has to go? An all familiar scene. I mean, all the talking points, like the Daily Yeast wrote it themselves. And I hate that publication. You know why? Because, well, first of all, it sucks. But secondly, you have Chelsea Clinton, who looks like Alfred E. Newman, who just had a wonderful night with Hillary Clinton back when. They sit on the boards of all these things. You know, we should, it just reminds me now. I just reminded myself just randomly that maybe we should shine a light on that cockroach. Not the dead one, the cow-fertilizing, cackling hen of Hillary, but her daughter, the thing that spawned out of that demon.
You have hundreds of migrants here. You have hundreds of migrants crossing the border. What you guys just witnessed was the front lines here in El Paso, Texas, at the border highway. There's hundreds of migrants crossing daily, thousands of migrants in downtown. Our city is being overrun. We have a serious invasion here, and we need help. We need the federal government to step in and stop these people. We need to get these guys to go back to their country and not to wait here. What's happening is that they're going Greyhound stations, or they're getting court dates, prolonged court dates, and just they're releasing them into the city, and there's lots of crime. Like a little boy that was at about 16-year-old boy that was at a shelter here. One of those migrants stabbed him to death. So there's crime that they're not reporting happening here in our city. But I'm here. I live here. I'm from El Paso, and I see this daily. So don't believe the reports of, oh, these are refugees. These are not refugees. I've never seen refugees with brand new Jordans. I've never seen refugees with cameras taking videos and TikToks. I've never seen refugees smoking vapors. I mean, these people are not refugees.
In 2020, I was screaming at the top of my lungs. In fact, I was doing whatever I could to just put articles out, and all I had was a phone. Well, this is what I got here. The Chinese are coming. The Chinese are coming. The secret Chinese military bases in Canada and Mexico. PLA, the People's Liberation Army, which could be a certain sector of it under the control of the CCP, were in Baja California. Baja California, setting up bases. And when I mean setting up bases, the tunnels are not just for the just incredible fentanyl they want to just pepper our salads and food with. No, or trafficking. It's the tunnels that are going to be used by the PLA to get into the middle and the heart and the soul of the United States for a complete takeover. An American big rig driver who was contracted to bring a load of food and groceries to an address 60 miles south of Laredo, Mexico. Well, the trucker drove to the address in Mexico provided and was let into a secret Chinese military base. Chinese soldiers unloaded the food from his truck, they say. The trucker realized that there were 10,000 Chinese armored vehicles parked there, which he determined by counting the rows, each Chinese armored vehicle could hold between 8 and 10 men. Can you believe it? Yes, you can. Chinese troops were living in shipping containers. He was, quote, very worried at the time. The name of the trucker was never given, so, and they say, here it is to close it off. Where to start? First of all, why would the Chinese troops in Mexico have food delivered from America? This is how they were sneaking things in here. 10,000 vehicles to let them out. And Obama was setting the stage for that.
crossing daily, thousands of migrants. We have a serious invasion here, and we need help. We need the federal government to step in and stop these people. We need to get these guys to go back to their country and not to wait here. We have a serious invasion here, and we need help.
Hello, everybody. This is Dean Ryan, just dropping in here. Thank you for watching our little impromptu special tonight, a very important one. I thought I'd drop in as I am busy behind the scenes here. You might remember this. The Chinese are coming. The Chinese are coming. Well, this was a big deal for me and many, because the Chinese, before anyone was talking about China in Canada or anywhere, well, it was a lot of the people who were at the border, a lot of sleuths down there, and people like yours truly here. That's from 2013. That's when you saw a lot of articles and you saw a lot of the heinous things that we're dealing with today being spoken about early on. Well, here's another one here, just to sum it all up here, because I mentioned that Obama was kind of the front man and responsible for a lot of these border crossings, as I witnessed firsthand in 2015 over there in Panama and Costa Rica. Well, here's another one here. You can see him shaking the hands of Mao Zedong. Well, not the original Mao Zedong, but Mao Zedong-like. Well, one of the CCPs, as it was written about here, 2013, the foreign takeover never happened, right? Wrong. No, it is happening. So this person here, and I should really rebroadcast this in an article of our own. As you can see here. Okay, how do I get out of here? Well, China, the story, yeah, they built bases in Mexico, everybody. Bases in Mexico. And I verified this with people on the grounds in Tijuana in 2020. Yeah, they built bases in Mexico. I heard Baja California, and I heard they were in Tijuana. Oh, in Canada, which is a given now, isn't it? As well as according to some. Now, just to put it in context, so we fully understand what the motive is, the modus operandi was Mexico, who is just a great friend to have. You know, if you don't have a Mexico bordering your state, well, or country, you're really missing out. Well, Mexico at that time, in the beginning, they were posturing towards China because they wanted to be part of the G7, while stabbing the U.S. in the back, pushing the poverty of the poverty from all of Central America to the U.S. so they get exploited by corporate welfare and what have you. So this was a big deal. Continuing here, just to round it all up here. So here's the big one. Now, mind you, this is written in 2013, 10 years ago, when America defaults on its debt and the economy crashes, the U.S. military will disintegrate and the People's Liberation Army, the PLA of China now, will stream in and take over. Let me read that again for the faint of heart or in the hard of hearing and the ignorant out there. This article was written in 2013. When America defaults on its debt and the economy crashes, the U.S. military will disintegrate and the People's Liberation Army will stream in and take over. Now, if you notice what it said in that article, if you don't know, I'll show it again, but it says that all these people were timed to come in when the economy crashes, when the dollar is no more. Now, if that is not just the just provenance right there in the person who wrote this, then I don't know what is, because here we are 10 years later to the exact day and month in May when this is happening. They planned for all this to happen. This is called the Kalergi Plan, something created in Europe in the 1920s when they wanted to erase a state or a country and get rid of it without one bullet or bomb fired. Well, they flood it with the third world nations that they created, that the banking cartel with the dollar and the fiat dollar has created an unfair marketplace. It's not capitalism. This is corporate fascism at its finest. Now, if that, and I almost feel like getting into a gold commercial or advert at some point, which I might do it, and you won't know when I do it. But let's go over this now, because this is some serious stuff here. Because you know why? Because we're going to have to clean this mess. So this wonderful article starts here. The New World Order. And a lot of people will say, well, it's the old world order. Okay, sure. Semantics, UN, what do you want? So during the 1990s, they say the persistent rumors that the United Nations in cahoots with who? President Bill Clinton, oh, isn't that so true, was readying a takeover of America in order to fulfill the promise to his overlords. That's very true. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, was building concentration camps in states like Colorado, Wyoming, and Alabama for the, quote, undesirables. Millions of body bags were being stockpiled at these camps for the deemed incompatible with America's new overlords. You know, that's so true. You know, what's his name? Jesse Ventura and Alex Jones found those coffins and body bags right in the middle of America. And furthermore, you had Bill Clinton, who not only just did that for FEMA, created by Jimmy Carter in 1979, but they had the guillotines that they put in the middle of the country as well for the, quote, undesirables. You see, it's all planned. And he was another dummy, too, controlled. They had him very controlled, like Governor Dimwit of Michigan. So they're going to be enforcing the New World Order. The armies of the former Warsaw Pact, Russians, Ukrainians, Czechs, Poles, and the heartless enemies of freedom in the United States for military exercises. So, yeah, that's one. In any day now. Well, it happened in stealth, didn't it? You know, I went public in 3 years ago now, and I said that the weapons of war, this is before I talked about the weapons of war being in the governor's building over there in Sacramento, how they were transporting them to the United States, they as in the CCP, they were putting it in shipping crates. And people said, that's crazy. Now, I had a whistleblower who didn't want to go public, or he wanted no recognition, that told me that they were in the Costco shipping crates all over the ports of the United States. And the more you looked into it, which I started, I said, oh my God, we are so usurped. It's disgusting. China owns virtually 80% plus of every port in the world, especially the United States. And you can bet your bottom dollar, Canada and the entire Commonwealth, England too. So Trump started ripping it up. The Battle of LA, based in Los Angeles area, believes that the Chinese military forces are active in its community. Oh, I would say so. You know, when you sell a home in California these days, well, you're not selling it to little Susie Q or Dirty Q for that fact. No, you're selling it to Chinese natives who are buying in cash. No joke. All of Orange County is usurped that way. Manchester, England, Liverpool, England, a lot of England is that way. I'm sure Australia as well. Well, here's what it says. There has been, he states, an increase in foreign aircraft flying at night, many which are Russian. That means there are very likely Chinese troop transports. Fortunately for the free world, his video camera was inadequate, as usually. I mean, ask anyone who investigates Bigfoot. That camera just can't seem to not get blurry, right? So continuing here, the Chinese will invade because, well, the vlogger believes that the Chinese will attempt to invade San Francisco and Los Angeles. He then goes on location to film various places throughout LA where he believes he will be key in the defense of the city. So fortunately for America, Los Angeles is in good hands. Okay, well, there's some truth to that. Let me explain that too, because in many, many in-depth talks with the special forces, they have rooted out and have war gamed exactly how to take back Los Angeles, Seattle, New York, Portland, for that fact. I think that's what he's referencing to. There is a pushback to it. There was military drills that started to do that, to really war game that in 2017 when Trump got into office. That's how key that statement was. Actually spoke to the guy who was part of those drills. So let's think about this here. I'm getting anxiety thinking about the day this really goes hot. What this means is that they have foreign adversaries and troops already in place in this country as of 10 years ago. So when we heard the word of a Trump step down and a 2-week notice to do it, and he does it January 7th of 2021, because he knows things, literally, just how embedded the enemy of this country and every free humanity is. Now, before I continue, you're probably saying, well, what does that mean when the military disintegrates? Well, what is the military? What does the United States military have? What have they been forced to do in the past couple of years? Do we all know which would cause depletion and disintegration? Well, that's the miracle jabs. Yeah, the forced mandated oculations at behest of Rachel Levine and the fake Biden administration, who's really working with the globalists of the globalist elites to get rid of all nation states, in the last domino to fall is the United States. So we're about there right now. So what that guy in El Paso is telling us is hand on Bible, eyewitness, all the truth. That's why you had people like Beta O'Rourke and one of the other Democrat presidential hopefuls, Castro was his last name, go figure. They all stemmed from El Paso. And isn't that interesting how it's all right there in the border states because they want these people to come in? Yeah, the U.S. military will disintegrate. A more mild version of the story is that the invasion force is response to the American forces of the Asian Pacific should the American try to intervene in a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. The Chinese could counter by attacking the United States directly. So it was called a creative idea back then, but you know what? 10 years in the future, exact numbers of Chinese troops fluctuates, they say, fluctuates with different sources, but here it is, but is alleged by one blogger and vlogger to be, get this, 300,000 troops in Canada, as we know, and 600,000 troops in Mexico. Ladies and gentlemen, we hit the bullseye here. We hit it, the bullseye once again. I hit it initially 3 years ago, talking about China, and nobody was listening. But now that we have the ears, the hearts, and the minds and the soul of not just this nation, but your nation all over the world, this is time to understand who the true enemy is of humanity and greater, the individual. That is the global elites who are masquerading as you and I. They look like just anyone you would meet on the street. They have used our own intelligence agencies against us. Kind of like when you're a kid and you have an older brother or somebody that just grabs your limbs and says, stop hitting yourself. That's what they're doing. And they have every single contingency plan to make sure their objectives are correct. So when you see the mothers against the AK-47s, the mass murdering weapons, it's all by design. It's all timed here. When they have their trans Tifa, as you saw in the little clip there in the advert prior to me coming here, that's true. They have their trans Tifa armies. They have their PLAs who are going to crawl through the tunnels, who are fluent in Spanish, from what my contact told me, who are ready for the eye is on the prize to them, and that is this land. We've made the case over the course of a greater part of a year almost that there's two Chinas. Because on one hand, you have Xi Jinping, who is the president of People's Liberation, but then you have the CCP. You have different factors. You have the second in command of CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, who is stepping down. You have Walensky, who's stepping down in the CDC, which makes no difference, but it's a sign of the times. And then you have a waning force in the Democrat CCP Light Party, the DNC, who's just biting their nails when they can get rid of this little puppet mass bandit person and then put in their true saboteur, whether it's Gavin, sociopath Newsom, or it's Michelle, I'm not a man, Obama. They're ready for it. But are we?